Hello and welcome. My name is Don Putkela.
And I'm Angela Putkela.
And this is our podcast, Welcome to Livingston, where we talk about all things Livingston County.
Yeah, where real estate meets community. We are, of course, with the Putkela Group, real estate professionals, but it's exciting to be able to recognize and speak to different local businesses and local causes like today.
Yeah, and we are really excited about today's guest. Today we have with us Nicole Colley with Alzheimer'S Association of Michigan.
Yeah. And this is a great cause, and she really heads up the big local walk for, well, is it Walk for Cure?
So the official title is Walk to End Alzheimer's. It was previously the Brighton Walk to End Alzheimer's, and this year we rebranded officially to Livingston County Walk to End Alzheimer's to include more of the county. So we're really excited to dive into that.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We are really excited. And I guess you gave a little bit of an intro, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about the association and kind of what it does then?
Yeah, so the Alzheimer's Association, I'd say biggest piece is just awareness. We have kind of multiple pillars that we can dive into at some point, but awareness of the disease itself, because there's still to this day not yet enough education and whatnot about it, but also just about the local resources that we offer. So a big part of our mission is just getting services out to help people.
This is such a great resource for anybody grappling with this, or for a family member that has, faces and voices that are really local, that, in terms of outreach. I think that's just outstanding.
Yeah.
So exactly, in terms of explaining the Alzheimer's disease and who it affects, can you tell us a little bit more about that for those that may not be familiar with it?
Yeah, kind of, I guess, what a lot of people tend to think that isn't true is Alzheimer's is just forgetting things, and it's just an old person's disease, right? So it's definitely something that can affect a lot more people. What we see the most is 65 and older, but people can be diagnosed with it as early as like 35 if they have early onset. So it's something that really does affect a lot of people. And just the age-old forgetting things is just part of getting old isn't true, right? Forgetting little things here and there might be normal per se, but forgetting things more like not just where I misplaced my keys, but I forget what my keys do is kind of the difference there between Alzheimer's and just normal forgetfulness.
Gotcha.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of it that way, because I guess that is for a lot of people, that's what they think. They think, oh, they're forgetful, or the extreme case where they kind of forget who they are, or they forget the people around them. But we don't think about those other aspects that they can't get through the day sometimes, because if, you know how to drive a car, but you can't remember what your car keys do.
Exactly. I think a lot of people kind of see it as, like I said, getting older, like, oh, Granny's just getting old. She's kind of cranky and she forgets things, right? That's like the common misconception. But if you think about it more as when I was in more of an education role before I joined the association, I taught courses on what exactly Alzheimer's and dementia looked like to staff that were handling those patients. And kind of a visual that I always gave people was you have to think about it as it's literally a disease that's killing the brain over time. And so if you think about the fact that your brain controls everything in your body, eventually if that brain's dying off piece by piece, everything that you do on a daily basis isn't going to function at one point or another. And so it's a lot more than just I'm slowly forgetting things or forgetting people, but eventually you can't swallow, you can't walk, you can't do normal functioning things. So it is something that does eventually kill.
Wow. And from some of our, from our group that we're in, you gave such a great presentation, and I didn't realize that it's so difficult to diagnose.
Yeah, it's something that, historically, it's one of those doctors had to run all kinds of tests, and they put all this data together, and they're like, okay, I think we can, 99.9% sure say we think you have this, but it wasn't an official thing until you could do an autopsy after death. And so just the fact that we're getting to a point nowadays, one of the big things that's on the horizon, hopefully very soon, that we've been seeing a lot in research is the idea that there might be a blood test soon where people can literally go take a blood test and know if they have Alzheimer's. So it's come a really long way over the course of the last few years, and we're excited to see things like that start to take place.
Fantastic. No, that is really, really good.
And that's something that is hereditary, right?
It can be. It's not technically hereditary in the general form. One of the more specific, like early onset genes, there's a type of gene that you can get, and that specific variation is hereditary. But as a whole, Alzheimer's isn't technically hereditary. A lot of people see it often in their families and that kind of thing, but part of that is just the fact that it's a vast number disease that affects so many people that it's just common to see. I mean, 1 in 3 seniors is going to die from it because it's that high. So, I mean, when you look at that number, how would it not be all over your family?
Right. Now, that's remarkable, and no word exactly on the cause, right?
Yeah, so I won't get into exact causes because research isn't my thing per se, but plaques and tangles in the brains and all of those things. But yeah, there's still a lot of research to be done on the exact specifics of that and then how to stop those things from happening.
Right. No, that's outstanding. So it's something people should be aware of and aware to watch for their family members. For sure. And this is something that I can see that you're very, very passionate about. So tell us, or at least, share with us how it's affected you personally. Where does this passionate perspective come from?
Yeah, I got started originally in the professional world because I worked in long-term care for about 10 years. And so I started off working just as an activities director. I worked in memory care specifically. I became really passionate about that. And at a certain point in time, I was doing walk teams and fundraising because it was fun and it made sense because it was the population. But at a certain point in time, I started seeing how much it was really affecting the families that I was working with. And so I started doing things like education programs and support groups because I saw a need there. In 2016, my family moved back to Michigan, and that same year my grandfather was diagnosed as well. So it's been interesting now for me to see going from the professional side of things to personally dealing with it as well, and it being in your own family. You can have all of the input in the world and all of the education that you've been giving people for years, but it's really different when it's your own family.
It hits home that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good for you for really being there to support this organization, and you're a vast resource.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So you want to start asking about the walk a little bit?
Yeah. So what exactly is the walk to end Alzheimer's then?
Yeah. So the walk itself is a day. This year it's going to be September 24th, and it takes place in our area right on Main Street in downtown Brighton. The Brighton Walk specifically started in 2011. So there were a few families that used to go to either Ann Arbor or Lansing for what was then called the Memory Walk. It was before it was branded the Walk to End Alzheimer's. And they went to the association that year and they were like, we need a walk in Livingston County. And the Alzheimer's Association was like, well, Brighton's not that big. I'm not sure, what does that look like? But they fought for it. They tried it out. In the first year, it was a small walk that fit in that little amphitheater back when it was wood, and it was at the Mill Pond. And it has grown so much. It has doubled and tripled multiple times over the years that it just kind of took over Main Street, and it became a thing that now closes Main Street every year. So it's been really interesting to see it grow. One of the things I'm really pushing for this year too is just for the community to see it as kind of a full mission year-long thing, right? I know that the whole year revolves around Walk Day, and it's definitely a celebration.
Yeah.
But how can we partner together throughout the entire year to be supporting families?
Absolutely.
And it's more than just the day, right? We're joining this for the mission.
I love that because it's the walk is the easy part because you can get out, walk, and it's fun, and you're going to enjoy the sun and everything. And obviously those funds go towards an amazing cause. But when that day is over, you guys still need help. That there's a lot of things. Would you like to speak for a second about what some of those other things are or ways that people can help?
Yeah, so kind of from a local aspect and what you see, what's the easiest visual in a community, all of the dollars that we raise through Walk goes towards research, advocacy, these programs and services that we're about to talk about. And so Walk is a huge part of that because that's how we raise the majority of the money that we need to make all of this happen. And these are all free services to the community.
So it's the funding behind it.
Exactly. And it is the biggest part of the funding. So it's definitely huge in that way. But on a local level, kind of what you see in communities is things like starting support groups for family members to go to. We host education programs throughout the community. We're always looking for new partners for those to actually physically be the host of a new education program and invite people in to learn. We've got over 15 topics to choose from about Alzheimer's. We have a 24/7 helpline that's available, and that one's a unique one that I think people don't necessarily think about on a local level, right? Because it's something that's, yes, manned nationally. It's an 800 number. But, I mean, if it was a local thing, how could somebody possibly be there 24/7 to answer the phone in one little county, right?
Right.
But that's something that people can call anytime, big or small. It can just be like, hey, I need a list of doctors in my area. Here's my zip code. Or it can be like, I've been trying to take my mom to the doctor or get my mom to shower or whatever the case may be, and I'm just having a really hard time. I need to talk to somebody about new approaches to try. So it can be something more in depth. We also do care consultations, which I can speak to from a personal side. I've actually used that with my own family because, like I said, it's so different being on a personal side versus professional side. But you can talk one-on-one with the social worker and go through your unique family situation and kind of talk through like a plan of action for your family and what that might look like.
Great.
Yeah.
I love how it's individualized. So even though it's a big organization and there's a lot going on, that those people that are going through it can feel that support and really have access to those resources.
Exactly. So for the walk, though, what is your guys' fundraising goal then?
So it's not officially out yet this year, but it's looking like it's going to be 200 or 250 for this year. We ended up last year, kind of our first year back in person after COVID. Our goal was 157,500. In 2019 was our last like regular in-person year, if you will. And that year we raised 181,000. And so we were trying to kind of get back to where we were, if you were. And so we ended up like completely blowing by that. The community really rallied around everything last year, kind of being back in person and being back together. And we raised 213,000 last year.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Good
this
for you
year,
guys.
I believe we're going to be going for 250 if all goes through.
Fantastic. Great. And that's a big part of the walk. So it's not just coming and walking in it, it's raising the funds and getting the people around you to kind of donate and support to you walking, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really cool about this event. You know, it's called a peer-to-peer event. In terms of like nationally, there's reviews that go on, right, for various events that are peer-to-peer throughout the country. And we've continued to rise up over the years and hit number 2 again this last year for like the number 2 peer-to-peer event to do something for. And what I think is really cool about that is you look at this massive number, right, 250,000, and you think like, oh, okay, like a good chunk of that must be like sponsorships and companies and this and that. Mm-hmm. But really, like a big chunk of that isn't necessarily. If you look at 213 from last year, without looking at my spreadsheet off the top of my head, sponsorship was something like 30,000, something like that, right?
So just a drop in the bucket, right?
A drop in the bucket. Like what's crazy about this is we raise all of this money and the majority of it is our amazing community coming together, raising these funds for something that they care about.
Wow.
For Livingston County, I can believe that's
Yeah.
you know, there's so many things that we love about it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things that Alzheimer's has gotten a lot, I don't want to say publicity, but it's one of those things that affects a lot more people than you think. And every year it's affecting more and more people. So it's not, 20 years ago, it wasn't as mainstream for people to talk about it as it is now.
It's a little less taboo than it used to be.
Exactly.
It's still getting there. It's still not something that's easy to talk about by any means, but it's something that's coming out more and more. And the more that people share their story, the more it becomes normal to talk about, right? And so part of it is growing numbers. And part of it is how many people had it and we just didn't know it before, right? And so now it's like catching up in that way too. But if you look at, I think one of the stats that I read earlier today was in the nation, maybe I was looking at Michigan. The numbers are expected to go up. Oh yeah. So in the nation, there's 6 million Americans right now with Alzheimer's. But by 2050, they expect that to raise to 13 million.
Wow.
Is that not insane? I feel like that's a crazy increase
Right.
over not a very long amount of time.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that a lot of people worry about.
Yeah.
When I talk to people that are older and such, it's always that when you forget something, it's like, oh my gosh, is this?
Could it be?
Could
It's
it
that
be?
fear of the unknown, right?
Exactly.
Like people don't know that much about it, so it's automatically a scarier thing then. And it's fear of the unknown, and it's the fact that there's not a cure, right? I mean,
Right.
nobody wants to go down that deep, dark path.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, in terms of the groups, how large can these walk groups be?
Anywhere from 1 to hundreds. It really doesn't matter. So if it's like you and your family and it's just a few, then great. And if it's like a company signs up a team and they want a ton of people from the company, then that's great too. There's not really any set number of something that it has to be.
Excellent. Well, we are excited to announce to all of our listeners that we're going to have a walk group for Welcome to Livingston.
We're very excited about it.
Yeah. So between now and September here, we have a little bit of time. We'd love for any of our listeners, any of the people that are out there and enjoying it and want to participate and want to look for a group to be part of this great event and to help support it, then absolutely. I think you'll be able to look us up on the system there, and we're getting everything all set up for it. But we will be walking ourselves, and we would love for people that like our podcast and are interested in supporting it to kind of help us walk and help us support the Walk to End Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I think it's great that you guys are doing that. It's a really good example of, if a company or like you guys starts a team, it's a great way for maybe somebody who's been thinking about kind of diving in or dipping a toe in the pool and they're just not really sure. Maybe they don't have a family to walk with or friends to walk with or whatever, to just join in with maybe a friend or a company or their realtor or whatever the case may be, to be able to try it out. And it's always crazy to me the first time that people actually come to the event, right? That's one of my favorite parts about the event, is to see that person, that it's like clearly their first time. They walk onto Main Street, they see hundreds of purple people, and they're like, wow, this is massive and this is really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I know you closed down Main Street. How far is the walk?
The walk itself is only a mile.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a really fun morning. Registration starts at 9, and for the first hour and a half, we've got various local entertainment. So it's a little bit different every year, and it's everything from like a cappella groups from the local high schools. We've had years where we've had like karate demonstrations and cardio drumming. The yoga studio downtown did something for us last year. The dancers from Legacy did something one year. So it's a little bit different every year, but there's always something fun to do. And then we do our opening ceremony. Everybody walks their mile, and then most people stick around and go out to eat or shop at the local stores, and it's a good day.
That is very cool.
Oh, that's great for the community. I think this is fantastic. And it's such a good cause. And we want to have that ability to recognize that and to help in our own little way. And even for those that don't want to walk with us, let us know and go ahead and, donate through ours, and because we're going to start hustling donations then too.
Right. So, yeah. We haven't determined our personal goal yet.
Yeah. We'll have to see on that. But I think for a team goal was 2,000. And I think
a lot of teams do something like that.
We can do that.
We can most definitely. Yeah. And I think for these types of things, a big part of it is getting involved. And I bet you that people that do it year one, they get in, and a small donation is still a donation, and then they see how much they enjoy it. And then those people that do it 2, 3, 4 years, I'm assuming every year it gets a little bit bigger for them.
And it builds. And it's so funny because in terms of like how much you're involved, in terms of how much you give, it depends on, what angle works for people, right? There's some people that they just keep raising more each year, and it's exciting for them to do that, and growing their team as a family, maybe that's their aspect. Or there's some people that then start to get involved in the volunteer side, right? Like I've had people that we do a lot of the various booths at festivals throughout the summer, so that we try to be in the eye as much as possible so that people know who we are and they know that we're here for the cause and they can always get information. And so I've had people that are like, oh, I'll sign up to work a couple hours at a booth. And then they have so much fun that the next year they're like, okay, I want to join the committee and I want to do all the monthly meetings and I want to do all the things, right? So it's fun to see which different ways people get involved and watch them grow over time.
Right.
Fantastic. And I think now more than ever, now that the world's opening up and people have that face-to-face interaction, this is a huge opportunity for people to just get involved in their local community and in an outstanding cause, and to be able to really spend their time, not just stuck in front of the TV anymore, now that we've learned that wasn't as much fun as we thought it might be, right? Stuck in the house, to just get out and get involved and be part of your local Livingston community.
Yep.
And I think a great aspect of that is when you're getting involved in these things, you're in essence kind of helping be a support network, but creating a support network for yourself as well, because you never know what the future is going to hold, and you never know if this is going to affect your family. But at the same time, understanding it and being there to help other people, it's just, those bonds get created, which is a wonderful aspect of it.
Yeah, I was just having coffee with somebody this morning that said to me, and it's like one of those phrases that's always in my head, but it doesn't always sound positive. So, you don't want to say it, but they said to me, they were like, I don't have a direct connection in my family right now, but I know one day I'm going to. It's just, it's one of those things that touches everybody at one point or another, because it's just so common. And one of the best examples, I think, of what you were just speaking about is a friend in the community that is actually the person that invited me to join the committee back when I was a volunteer. She kind of became like the known purple person in the community, right? And even though she wasn't necessarily a staff member or anything like that, people knew that if they had something with Alzheimer's that came up, they knew this girl that was really involved in the purple cause, and they could go ask her a question and she would find them an answer or find them the person that they wanted to talk to. And so I think that anybody that gets involved in something like this, you automatically have that. Like, you're going to run into somebody that needs help at some point. They're going to know that you're tied, even if it's in a small way, and they're going to know that they can go to you for help.
Right. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's wonderful. And, this walk, I think, is just a great way for those of us that haven't been as familiar in the cause or have that background, just a way to really segue into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Last year we were busy, unfortunately, but with our business group, a lot of the other businesses came and joined and supported, which was so exciting to see. And then to hear about it afterward, what a great time they had, how well they did. I mean, just you could tell the energy of the event just from the conversations after it.
Yeah, I think that just for, any average person, it's a really, really fun, family-friendly community day. And it's also just a really good, if you are somebody that's affected and maybe you've been wondering what information's out there, or maybe you've been thinking something's wrong, but you haven't wanted to kind of delve and take that first step yet. The walk's a really easy way to just kind of join a community event, and then all of a sudden you've got a little bit more information. So it's that kind of first dip in the pool.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you said in terms of family friendly, that's a great thing to point out. So for the walking, it's okay for children then?
Absolutely.
Strollers?
Everything. One of the things that stuck out to me last year was the first year that we had Chuck Gatica was our MC for the year.
Oh my goodness.
That was really, really fun last year having him. And something that he said, we actually did a podcast afterwards live on Main Street. And one of the things that he said that stuck with me was, I think that this event really shows the intergenerational part of this disease, because you look around and there's kids here walking for their grandparents. And it's like literally babies all the way up to older people. And there's everybody there.
Wow. Yeah, no, because I was thinking about that. Me and Angela, we're Gen X, which means our parents are getting older, and we know a lot of people whose parents are getting older. And you hear that, like, it affects multi-generational so much because, it's so scary for the person that's going through it. Yeah. But then it's so scary in a different way for the people that are surrounding that person, that are that support network, but they need support themselves sometimes.
Yeah. And your generation specifically, in some of what we talk about, we kind of refer to that as the sandwich generation, right? Because you've got many of people your age are taking care of their own kids still, and then they're also taking care of their parents, right? And a lot of, in terms of caregiving, what's so hard is a lot of people are still trying to work full-time while they're taking care of people. Honestly, the majority of hours from caregiving are unpaid hours by family or friends taking care of a loved one. It's not them putting someone in a facility or bringing help in or anything like that. And it's something I read this morning. I wrote this one down because I thought it was crazy. So in terms of caregivers specifically, 83% of caregivers are non-paid, which are family or friends. A third of them are 65 or older themselves. 2/3 of those people are women, and a third of those are daughters. 66% of those people live with their loved one, because it's just easier that way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a quarter of those people are that sandwich generation where they're taking care of their own children and they're also trying to take care of their parents.
Those are great statistics. Yeah. And that really segues into some of the real estate trends that we've been seeing, that in the last few years, that multi-generational home. Yep. A lot more people are looking for that. It's not just, Alzheimer's, but certainly Parkinson's and many other diseases that are out there that as that parent or grandparent ages, it doesn't make sense for them to be in an assisted living or whatnot. And so the family members just want a home that is set up
Yeah, and those are not incredibly common.
No.
I can attest
not.
It took us a while to find one.
A house with 2 master bedrooms takes a while sometimes.
Yeah.
And we've done it
get
for
a
a
little
couple
bit
people.
creative.
But a good realtor can come up with ideas,
Yes.
right? So, but I think that message, though, the fact that we're seeing this trend actually warms my heart, because it means that these families, and probably some friends and whatnot, but the families are really taking care of their own, and they're wanting to make this level of commitment to move their home and reestablish in order to have that family member right there and to be able to be one of that 83% of free caregivers.
Yeah.
So maybe when we're all older, maybe our kids will take care of us. I hope so. They'll toss us to the curb, right? But yeah, no, this really has been educational for me.
Oh,
and
very
I hope
much
for you
so.
guys.
Yeah. So I guess if someone wants to get involved, and they want to be in the walk, what's the first thing they should do? Where should they go?
They're just going to go to our website, which is the easiest website, which is not direct. It's just alz.org/walk. You can put in your zip code. It'll bring up all of the walks near you. So if you've got listeners anywhere else too, they can find whatever's closest to them. The direct link to go right to the Livingston County Walk is act.alz.org/Livingston. And then you can also search on Facebook for Livingston Walk to End Alzheimer's, and we have a local group as well. So you can definitely find resources that way.
And then once they're on that site, if they're looking for other resources, those are all there as well.
You can go back to the main page through that, but just alz.org is like our main website that has all of the possible resources you could ever need.
Excellent. And now that we're kind of winding down a little bit, I always want to make sure to ask each of our guests, what's your favorite part about Livingston?
So kind of a little bit what we alluded to is just that community aspect. I've lived in a number of areas now. I grew up in the Ann Arbor-Ypsi area personally, and my husband and I moved around a lot. We lived in Phoenix for a while. We lived in Nashville for a while. I work in another county as well. And just seeing how much Livingston County comes together for different things is really, really neat. It's something that I haven't really seen other places to the same degree, at least. I mean, I feel like many towns have that aspect, but it seems like something cool comes through or something meaningful comes through, and everybody in Livingston just jumps on it and does it 1,000%. And it's really cool.
So
That is very cool.
Remarkable culture.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because sometimes we talk about on the podcast that one of the reasons we started the podcast is people get off of the freeway and Main Street is closed down and they had no idea why it's closed down, and we're a resource for that. But at the same time, I drive through downtown all the time, and it's amazing how many times there's a different banner up that they're supporting this cause, or, it's Ladies' Nights Out, or it's Cancer Month, or it's, the Alzheimer'S Walk. And it's like you said, every time you turn around, it's the community coming together for, hey, let's support another.
Yeah, literally every time you turn around. I mean, just to speak to that, around walk time every year, between myself and the high school doing Pink Week and ovarian cancer is also the same month. We all coordinate who's going to do ribbons what week downtown, because they all fall right in a row. And it's just, and it's like you said, like you drive through Brighton and it's just like there's always something going on every week.
Yes.
Which is just awesome. It's a great community to be part of.
Yeah,
for sure. So good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been very educational. So definitely also check the show notes. So if you didn't catch the website she listed out, we'll make sure to have that in there. And
yep. And also, please subscribe. Please check us out. You can find us on Spotify, Sounder, any place that you listen to podcasts. And I just found out this week, we have a bunch of people that go and watch it on YouTube that I didn't even realize how many were watching it.
It's on YouTube too. So great. So wherever you want to tune in, check it out. And thank you for joining us. And welcome to Livingston.